Welcome to the Generative Edge, the podcast that keeps you up to date with the latest news and events in the world of generative AI. I'm Brandon. I'm the natural language processing and generative AI lead at Deloitte Central Europe. In our tech-driven world, having a solid data strategy is key to making generative AI solutions work for your business because, let's face it, with data, it's garbage in, garbage out. So, making sure that your quality data is being used as strategically as possible is important. Today, we've got a special guest, Krzysztof Rainholc, a data strategy manager in Deloitte Central Europe, to break it all down for us. Krzysztof, welcome to the show.
Hello, Brandon. Thanks for having me.
Today, we're going to be talking about data strategy. I have to ask the very simple question, what is data strategy? Because I work mostly on the implementation side and then the technical side. I have no idea what data strategy is. If you would just want to explain 30 seconds.
Of course, yes. 30 seconds. Before you go to implementation of anything, of any either technology or target operating model or whatever you need to design it. So data strategy is more about understanding and translating business problems into how to organize the whole data lifecycle. It's not only about resolving business problems, but it's also about identifying opportunities, set up the ambition, and answer to that should be in the strategy. In every strategy you can imagine, because data is just one thing, but you can have AI strategy, you can have business strategy. So the strategy meaning is basically answering business problems, identifying new opportunities for growth, and so on.
Okay, gotcha. Do you have any real world experience, people asking how to do data strategy specifically as it relates to generative AI, or is it typically related to other types of ventures?
Of course it is. It relates much, and if we see currently the boom on the data strategy, data governance projects, the reason behind that is basically because GenAI caused the boom across the clients. So they see all these beautiful charts, they see all these beautiful tools, and they want it in their organizations, and they struggle with doing it because they don't have a good data, and that's why they started to think about managing data well, etc. So this is very strongly linked, I would say, and basically helps us. This boom helps us to solve much more projects.
I see.
Before.
Okay. What falls under that umbrella term of data? Because I know that when we build out software systems that work with, let's say, knowledge bases or documentation, PDFs, financial reports, all of that falls under the scope of what I would consider data in a traditional sense. What else goes into data, at least regarding generative AI? Is that email addresses, personal information? How does all of that work?
Everything. But in terms of generative AI, I would say that the data is from the input side. You input some data, you have some model. And then you've got the new type of data, which is the generative, this generative thing, because this generates some audio, this generates some video, this generates some pictures, etc. And this is also the data that you need to store, you need to take care of, and you need to have an idea how do you want to manage it. So this is the, let's say, maybe not new type of data, but a whole more data that you can produce and you need to store and you need to use it for your business purposes. So generative AI brings much bigger, let's say, the terabytes of data that you need to manage.
I imagine it's probably difficult to keep track of maybe data ownership rights. Assuming that somebody writes up a financial report or something, how much ownership do they have over that? With generative models, you're generating content that is just basically it's just a model that statistically tries to generate outputs that look like its inputs that it was trained on. So how do you tackle the question of ownership when you use generated data?
So basically, if we talk about ownership, this is the governance part. The governance can be
Right.
data governance or AI governance. It can be a part of strategy. It can be an initiative coming from data strategy or from AI strategy. But it's a huge thing because you need to create the whole target operating model behind all those things. To govern the data well, to govern the models well. And if we talk about data ownership, it's easy on the strategy part, I would say. But
Okay.
what's interesting, because it's easy to find a person who is, let's say, we call it the biggest power user in the organization in terms of that specific data. So if we talk about the customer contact data, I would say. So this is like CRM manager, for example, who should be responsible
Right.
for that. Yeah, it depends from the organization structure, it depends from the company, of course, but let's say for the purpose of this discussion that this is so easy. So you identify this person, and the bigger challenge is with the onboarding of this person, yeah, to explain what data ownership is about, yeah, what should he focus or she should be focused on, and to like sacrifice this specific period of FTE, like the part-time, like for that specific job, yeah, because
Hmm.
it's often that we end up with beautiful documented strategy, data strategy, and in the end nothing is implemented because people don't know what to do. Yeah, they got this new role, data owners, etc. So we always try to do uh, with data strategy, we always try to do also, like, let's call it kickoff of implementation. So we
Okay.
smoothly go from strategy to implementation phase, not to
Hmm.
leave the client with beautiful document, but also with the, let's say, at least onboarded people, yeah, because these new roles, that roles are not understood well. So you need to build this, let's say, trainings for them, and you need to basically do it in the even in the strategy phase, I would say, yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay.
Data owners, this is also like something interesting, yeah, because we've got data owners. Data owners are part of data governance model, yeah. Data
Hmm.
governance is part of data strategy. AI strategy is, or Gen AI strategy is peak of the iceberg. Yeah, I always try
Right.
to say it's like, maybe it will sound funny, like, but Gen AI is easy, or AI is easy when you take care of your data. Yeah, so
Right.
uh,
Uh-huh.
data is the most important thing, and there are a lot of words behind strategy. Yeah? You can call it data strategy, you can call it data governance, you can call it data quality, and
Hmm.
you always need to clarify from the clients what do they need. Yeah, because they will use, for example, data strategy term, but they will mean, for example, I don't know, implementation of data quality tool. It's often like this,
Right.
yeah. And
Hmm.
we working in consulting, we need to distinguish those things, explain what they specifically want,
Hmm.
and deliver it. Yeah, because we see, for example, that on low mature, I like to build this kind of maturity curve, yeah. And you have the low mature markets when they ask for data quality projects and they want to
Yeah.
resolve the problems now, here and now. Yeah, they've got problems
Hmm.
with data, they want to resolve it, and let's do it. Then you've got data governance project. We see a lot of data governance projects on Polish market, for example, yeah,
Hmm.
where I live. And we don't see a lot of data strategy projects. Why? Because this is the next step. Yeah, the Western market, the Nordics market. There are a lot of requests for data strategy. Yeah, and data strategy is wider because you think from the business perspective much more. Yeah, you think about use cases, you think about Gen AI, you think about AI, traditional
Hmm.
AI. You think about machine learning models, yeah, and you need to, like, organize the whole target operating model behind this. If you talk about only data governance, you only talk about the specific scope of data, yeah.
Right. Hmm.
Uh, so that's basically the difference, yeah, between the using words right, and that's not easy,
Hmm.
yeah.
No, for sure. I think probably this process starts with something like a maturity assessment. I know that's something that
Exactly.
we've worked on. Yeah, because even if you want to have a good strategy around data and around the quality of that data, so for like generative systems, they need to have high quality data in order to generate high quality outputs. Even that might be impossible with the current state of a business if you go in and do a maturity assessment and it turns out everything is in handwritten notes in a locker somewhere, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So as you've said, like, we've started with as is assessment, yeah, and we've got dedicated frameworks for that. We've got models. We know what to ask about, how to organize that. Uh, let's give an example that people don't want to usually involve business in that, yeah. And
Hmm.
we always pursue clients that data is about business, it's not about IT, yeah.
Hmm.
Technology only supports the processing, the storage, etc. of the data, yeah. But you need to talk with business if you want to manage your data well, because data is for business purposes, and that's the most important thing. So you start with some kind of with some kind of maturity assessment. You start also with the discussion, with the interviews, with some kind of discovery phase. When you understand, okay, what's the problem with data? Yeah, what business people, what problems have business people with data? Yeah, that's the most important question to ask. Yeah, and then translate it into the strategy that will answer those questions. Yeah, is it maybe like the technology implementation, or like better target operating model, better processes, etc. It doesn't matter, because like it matters, but it needs to start with business. Yeah, and that's the most important thing for me. Yeah.
Okay. So you're starting with the business. And once you actually get to the implementation phase, how do you actually interface with the tech people? Do you the outputs of the first step of that phase is basically to create documentation, and then the tech people need to follow it, or you also communicate with them and you have workshops? I don't know if you've had experience doing something like that, or
it's the second option for sure. Yeah, like it's more like workshop driven implementation. It's less about documentation, more about interact with people and conversations. Yeah. And basically, like you've got these use cases, yeah, and these data use cases. That's the most important thing. Yeah, and like and on top of the data strategy, on top of technology, on top of, because everyone understands that you've got technology for data quality, for data governance, I don't know, like, the whole databases, etc. But you always need to think for what purposes are those data. Yeah, and from my perspective, for example, like the biggest challenge is the communication phase. Yeah, because once you build a strategy that needs to be understandable by business people, you need to communicate it well. Yeah, and you need to have, like, if you want to implement anything from data perspective, you need to think. You need to have that data-driven mindset. Yeah, I can give you an example. I was working for a mobile gaming company. It was actually my break because I was working for Deloitte few years ago. I stepped out to work with mobile gaming company and came back in here. Yeah, and that was a pretty nice experience. Yeah, like, because they were very data-driven mindset. Yeah, and I was always like, my chief was the chief product officer. He was responsible for product strategy. So he builds all those data use cases, and by data use cases I mean like the personalization of the offer. Yeah, churn prediction model. And basically every day of my work started with the question, okay, here is the business question for today, and Chris, show me data for supporting the answer. Yeah, and that was all about digging into data, about implement the data strategy thing into software development plan. Yeah, because you need to think upfront, what data will you need when you design the feature for games. Yeah. And a lot of those things, yeah, we've done thousands and hundreds of A/B tests because we're testing everything, and it, like, some solution shows you like 5% of uplift. You've got the data supported that decision. Yeah, and this is what's important if you want to also build data strategy. Yeah, to have this data driven mindset, to have this buy-in from the board. Yeah. To identify business needs, to identify data use cases, and then, believe me, like the whole thing, the foundations, let's say, this legwork is needed, but the most crucial thing designing data strategy is about the top thing. Yeah, so GenAI use cases. What do you want to do with GenAI? What data do you need? Yeah. And communicated it well, and this is the key for the success, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds super familiar.
Yeah.
Okay, Krzysztof, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Generative Edge, a Deloitte Central Europe and AWS production. Your hosts are Brandon Eychaner, Vyasaraj Kulkarni, and Donovan Spronk. Our show is executive produced by Stephanie Cohen, Vanch Luthra, Ian Masters, and the Deloitte studio in Prague. Head writers are Stephanie Cohen and Brandon Eychaner. Our sound and audio engineer is Wojtek Krasa, who also serves as our editor and videographer. Michał Trusina is our graphic designer. Our marketing and social media managed by Stephanie Cohen and the Deloitte studio in Prague. And our theme song was written and produced by Jakub Vlasic. Don't forget to rate and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in.